Ja, niet alleen de portemonnee, maar om je rechten af te nemen. Ja, zodat je gewoon, je moet een beetje in het gereel lopen. Je moet je bek houden. Dat is de bedoeling. Nou, dat hebben ze dan, en als je al die tapes ziet van die pagina die op de Hive staat, dan begrijp je een beetje hoe het in elkaar heeft gezeten en wie eraan mee hebben gedaan. Nou, dat is vervolgens gebruikt om Osama Bin Laden op te zoeken. Oh nee, wacht even. Nee, we moesten naar Irak toe ineens. Weet je nog, dat rapport, weet je nog hoe Colin Powell daar stond met zijn flesje, het getuigen over, hoe heet het?
Luchtfoto's zag je op de achtergrond en dan wees hij aan van kijk, daar zien we dit.
Weapons of mass destruction. Nou.
Which describes in exquisite detail Iraqi deception activities. In this next example, you will see the type of concealment activity Iraq has undertaken in response to the resumption of inspections. Indeed, in November 2002, just when the inspections were about to resume, this type of activity spiked. Here are 3 examples. At this ballistic missile site on November 10th, we saw a cargo truck preparing to move ballistic missile components. At this biological weapons-related facility on November 25th, just 2 days before inspections resumed, this truck caravan appeared, something we almost never see at this facility, and we monitor it carefully and regularly. At this ballistic missile facility, again, 2 days before inspections began, 5 large cargo trucks appeared, along with the truck-mounted crane to move missiles. We saw this kind of house cleaning at...
The main reason we went into Iraq at the time was we thought he had weapons of mass destruction. It turns out he didn't. You know, I've heard this theory about, you know, everything was just fine until we arrived, and you know, kind of the stir up the hornet's nest theory. It just doesn't hold water as far as I'm concerned. The terrorists attacked us and killed 3,000 of our citizens before we started the freedom agenda in the Middle East. They were... What did Iraq have to do with what?
The attack on the World Trade Center.
Nothing.
We zijn daar binnengelopen. En wat hebben ze gedaan? Ze hebben precies uiteindelijk volgens plan, dat is net geen 2 weken geleden gebeurd, hebben ze alle olievelden opgedeeld en met de no-bid contracten tussen de oliemaatschappijen. Dus nou, dat is klaar. Die is rond.
Iraqi's oil minister Hussein al-Shahrastani said that 6 of Iraq's large oil fields will be open to foreign companies for long-term bids. This will pave the way for international companies to enter the Iraqi oil market.
The Iraqi government decided to open 6 large oil fields to foreign companies in order to develop them. The fields are Kirkuk, Al-Rumayla, Al-Zubair, Niyasan, Al-Kurina and Bahi Hassan. Among the 35 foreign oil companies, some reports confirm that 4 oil companies from the US, France, Britain and Denmark will have a better chance of getting the bids. Meanwhile, the Iraqi government denied that this latest move may override its nationalized oil decision. However, the move without a doubt will open the door wide towards privatizing Iraqi oil fields.
Despite previously being adamant it wasn't a reason for going to war in Iraq, the federal government now says oil is one of the reasons Australian troops are staying there. Launching the government's latest defence update, the Prime Minister says energy security, including oil, is something Australians need to think about when considering the consequences of a premature withdrawal from Iraq.
First, it was about weapons of mass destruction. Then it was terrorism. Now, oil has become a reason for the war in Iraq.
Obviously, the Middle East itself, not only Iraq, but the entire region, is an important supplier of energy, oil in particular.
Today, the Prime Minister launched Australia's latest defence update, and securing oil supplies from the trouble region is highlighted as justification for staying the course.
Many of the key strategic trends I have mentioned, including terrorism and extremism, challenging demographics, WMD aspirations, energy demand and great power competition converge in the Middle East.
It wasn't always the way.
Prime Minister, has oil got anything to do with this conflict?
No, I don't believe for a moment it has.
I think Mr Howard makes it up as he goes along on Iraq. When Mr Howard was asked back in 2003 whether this war had anything to do with oil, Mr Howard said, in no way did this war have anything to do with oil.
The entry of oil into the argument has Labor redoubling its calls for an exit strategy. But the government is adamant there will be no timetabled withdrawal.
The Australian Labor Party is out of step with what is right and necessary to do in Iraq.
Nu moeten we Iran nog hebben. Nou, precies hetzelfde gebeurt.
Hi, welcome to the first in our series of interviews with Seymour Hersh, famed author for The New Yorker. In a recent piece titled Preparing the Battlefield, Seymour Hersh says that the leadership of the Democratic Party has authorized spending over $400 million in support of a presidential finding that greatly expands the use of secret operations inside Iran, including perhaps the use of lethal force. Here's what Seymour Hersh wrote in his piece. The Democratic leadership's agreement to commit hundreds of millions of dollars for more secret operations in Iran was remarkable given the general concerns of officials like Gates, Fallon, and many others. The oversight process has not kept pace. It's been co-opted by the administration, the person familiar with the contents of the findings said. The process is broken, and this is dangerous stuff we're authorizing. Just how dangerous? Well, there's a suggestion in the article that the program is being modeled after the program being executed by the Special Ops in Waziristan, which includes the use of predators and other forms of lethal force against selected targets. While there's not yet suggestion these kinds of activities will take place in Iran, it's a little ambiguous just what's been authorized. Joining me now is one of America's most renowned investigative journalists, Seymour Hersh. Mr. Hersh, just what did congressional leadership authorize anyway?
It's more like acquiescence. I don't think anybody in the leadership got a briefing on this or wanted to know what the details are. Where the problems arose is there are some people in the Congress who have access to this. We're talking about, you know, the highly classified stuff. There are some people who have access who realize they don't know the whole story, and you know, that's the issue. But the leadership, I mean, what else is new? That the government walks in with a finding and they sign off on it. They sit in their office and they sign off on it. There hasn't been much, you know. One of the things that's gone on since the Cold War has been the ascendancy of you know, the intelligence military over most of the, but basically over the Congress. The Congress has become pretty much a rubber stamp.
But wittingly or unwittingly, have they given authorization for the use of lethal force in Iran?
They don't have that power. That power is not granted to them by this president. This president has decided that any time he's going to invoke the military, we're talking about military now, the paramilitary units, the Joint Special Operations Command, the Special Operations Command, all of these various groups, Congress has never told anything about them. This president has a fiat that anything that's military is part of warfare, preparing the battlefield, even intelligence collection per se. Under the legislation, any covert operation by any agency, including the Pentagon and the CIA, obviously, and the Defense Intelligence Agency, must be briefed. This president has read it this way. Anything that has to do with the military, even if it's intelligence collection by the military, is part of warfare, preparing the battlefield, and I don't have to tell Congress anything.
En die Barack Obama, ja, die dus continu heeft over change, ja, die kwam van de week van, ja, weet je, ik gebruik geen publiek geld voor mijn presidentschap. Ik ga uit privé ga ik dat ophalen. En ik heb ongeveer 500 miljoen nodig dollar dan om president te worden.
When you use the phrase refine policies, you did not refer to the 16-month timetable. So does that mean you can tell us today that you will not change the 16-month timetable? You just said that when you use the phrase refine policies, you did not refer to the 16-month timetable. So does that mean you can tell us today that you will not change the 16-month timetable?
Nou, en 2 weken later, nadat hij even gekeken heeft hoe hij aan die 500 miljoen dollar gaat komen, wat natuurlijk komt van grote bedrijven. Nou, ineens zegt hij, ja, weet je, ik had eerst gezegd dat we uit Irak zouden terugtrekken. Ik heb even de zomer nodig om erover na te denken en dan misschien als ik president ben, 16 maanden daarna maak ik misschien wel een beslissing. Ja? Dus die is gewoon ook vervuild door de grote bedrijven en het geld wat hier gewoon achter zit.